In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can
You're
do for
off
you.
to San Diego soon?
Ask what you can do for
Yes, I have to go to San Diego. I'm not exasperated about that. I'm going to a baby shower. One of my best friends is having a baby. And I have to, while you're talking, I have to finish this baby blanket. I'm so close to finishing it. But look, I'm
Let's see
holding
it.
it up for you.
Aw.
It's like a cute little rainbow pattern, and then I'm doing this edging on it. And anyway, I have so little left to do. Oh my God, I have like 4 inches left to do. So I'm gonna do that.
How long would that
And
take
then I'm
you?
ready. I mean, this took me like months because it doesn't take you like, you don't just do it, in like one sitting. And it's hard to tell, but I've had people be like, "How much would you charge for those?" And I'm like, "I don't know, $1,000." Like it's like it takes so much time. And then I saw these things on Instagram. I was like, definitely targeted for these tags that you can buy to put on stuff that says like, "This took forever. I'm never making you anything again." It's really fun. Which are funny, but um,
Awesome.
try to get a baby blanket in whenever someone has a baby. So that's what I'm working on.
So if you're having a baby and you need a baby blanket, tell Taylor like right when you know.
I mean,
Or
I have
just
to
don't
start,
tell
yeah,
her
tell
and
me,
then just buy it. Just buy it separately.
just buy one at Target, but
Buy
also
one at
it's
Target.
special, so I like
Yep.
to make them for people.
Yep. Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and kick it off with the intro. Welcome to Doomed to Fail, the podcast where we cover 2 stories, one true crime, one history around things that were doomed to fail, not just relationships, but also situations. I'm first joined by Taylor, who's on her way to San Diego shortly after this. Again, the most jet-setting podcasters in America.
I know, we saw each other so recently.
We
So
saw each
funny, like just like a
other.
week ago.
Yeah. It was a week ago. Then I was off to Seattle. Then Taylor went back to Palm
Mm,
Springs or Joshua Tree. I confused the two.
I flew to Palm
Um,
Springs.
there you go. There you go. Taylor,
That's
who's
right.
up first today?
I think it's you.
I'm up first today. Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's cover your drink for the day.
Okay. First, have you ever been to Chicago?
Yes,
And have you
unfortunately.
ever been to stop. Have you ever been to a Portillo's?
I don't know what that is.
So it's like a delicious Chicago restaurant where they have like Chicago hot dogs, which is like no ketchup, a pickle, the poppy seed bun. They look super good. And then it has like these really great French fries, and it has like Italian beefs, which is like what you always have in Chicago. Last time I was at Portillo's, we got out and I went into the car and I got stung by a bee in the car. Do you remember that? It was like last year at my cousin's wedding, at Lindsay's wedding. Um,
Is a
that's
Are you
definitely
saying a Portillo or Portillo as in like a proper noun?
the proper noun, Portillo's.
So it's a
It's a dude
restaurant
named
called Portillo's.
Mr. Portillo.
Got
Yes.
it. Okay. Okay.
Anyway, Portillo's has a thing that is 850 calories for a small one, but it's a cake shake. I was just talking about this at work with people, but it's a piece of chocolate cake, heavy cream, and ice cream, and it's a cake shake, and it is delicious.
That's what you're gonna
That's
have?
what I'm drinking, hypothetically.
This looks amazing. Yes,
I
we
know.
actually put a slice of chocolate cake into our blended milkshake. Wow.
I
That is
know.
awesome.
I mean, like, of course it's not good for you, but it looks great.
This is not an everyday treat. This is a once in a lifetime
No,
treat.
yeah. God, do you remember all that stuff that they made us read that we read about? Um, Oh gosh, what was that thing where you're like replacing something with another thing for like product theory?
What?
It
I
was
don't.
like it was like a kale or a milkshake was the thing. What's that called? Do you remember that book we had to read? We read when we were the product team together for no reason for like a year.
Oh, I never did any of that stuff. I didn't even watch the movie they told us to watch. Remember that? The Humanity movie? I didn't do any of that.
No, no, I didn't either. But I was on maternity leave during that. Kale or milkshake.
God, even their hot
What
dogs
is
look
it called?
so good.
They're delicious. They're delicious. Oh, well, my whole point of this is there is this like whole story about how people were drinking shakes from McDonald's for breakfast because they needed something to like drink, and that's why they invented like frappuccinos. Anyway, keep going. Your notes
Um,
cold.
well, we'll get to the bottom of this. So hold on, where's my notes? I don't even know where my notes are. So, okay, I'll go into my section now that we know what Portillo's is. Because at first I thought you were saying a Portillo, and I was like,
Mm,
is that like a word that's like kind of like a bodega is in New York? That's why I was confused. So, okay, anyways, we'll
that's
move on.
fair. Um, Miles is currently very confused about Harry Potter houses because we went to Harry Potter party, and he's like, "What's Hufflepuff?" I'm like, "Well, anyway,
I saw that picture.
um,
That was a really cute picture.
it's really cute."
Okay,
Jobs to be done is the product thing. Okay, go. I'm
jobs to
so
be
sorry,
done.
everyone.
No, no, no. I know jobs to be done. I didn't know. Yeah, now I get it. I get where you come from. Okay,
Got
so
it.
my drink is going to be a glass of Chianti, even though it's 10 o'clock in the morning here in Texas. Um,
Thank you. A season to drink. I'm so excited.
why, why would you think I'm going to drink a glass of Chianti? Why that specific drink? Because you know me, I don't know anything about wine.
Well, I would say they were talking about Hannibal Lecter because that's who I think about immediately when I think about Chianti. Do you remember that part?
Yeah,
How he eats the liver with fava beans and a glass of Chianti?
I even wrote that down. Yes, that is exactly why
Did,
I'm talking about Chianti or having
am I
Chianti.
right?
Yes, you're
Oh my
absolutely right.
God.
So here's what I wrote. I wrote
Ugh.
because I'm covering people that are not dissimilar to the best movie villain of all time, Hannibal Lecter, and I referred to I'm gonna
Yay.
eat his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
I
So
love that
you
movie.
totally nailed it.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm covering two crimes because they're short. They're really short. I don't know why they're so short
Okay.
because they're so fascinating, and it's like you'd have to pull like international criminal records on one of them to actually know what all the details were, and I'm just not going to do that. But so I'm going to say that this is more like a phenomenon than like an individual true crime story. And the
Okay.
phenomenon I'll hone in on is called consensual homicide. I'm sure
Okay.
you grasp what that concept is, right?
Sure. Like you're like, you can kill me. It's cool.
Yes. Yeah,
Is that right?
basically that. Basically that. And like there's actually like a humane way of this happening, which is like the Dr. Kevorkian version of that, if you recall him from the 1990s,
Yeah.
where he would do it like
God, I
adult
remember that was such
euthanasia.
a big deal.
It's like now like it's legal in Oregon. Like now you can just go somewhere. You can go to Sweden and do it. Like it's
God, I forgot how worked up we were about that
I
for
still don't know
like a year.
I still don't know how I feel about it.
Mhm.
Because I think that if I think that if you're like terminal, right? Like, you know, obviously we've
Yeah.
known someone that's been in that position. And
Hmm.
if you're like this is just dragging on and it's too painful and I don't want this anymore, then yeah, sure. But like if you just have like suicidal ideations or like have depression, I don't know. I don't think that you should be allowed to just like kill yourself because I mean that shit can pass, you know?
Well, I mean, I think it's better to do it under medical care than to do it like at your house.
Well, I know, but
I
I'm
don't know.
saying I'd rather that just not be on the table at all.
Well, of course. Well, of course, we'd rather not do it, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a long time, so I'm not prepared to say how I feel about it.
No, there you go. So there was a Dr. Kevorkian version of consensual homicide, and then there's obviously the horrific, disgusting, gross version of it, which is what I'm going to cover today in two stories. So one is going to be like something people have already heard before. I'm positive if this is the first time you're hearing this story, I'll be shocked. The other one, I doubt you've heard it. Like someone obscure and totally common.
Okay.
So the first one is the story of Armin Meiwes, which you know, Taylor. Come on.
Is it a German guy?
Yes.
I'm only
The,
laughing because did you ever watch the IT Crowd?
I never watched that.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's I think it's on Netflix. It's two seasons or three, whatever. It's fantastic. But there's one called Moss in the German, like one of the guys, his name was Moss, and he decides to like get and they tell him to go out and get more social, so he goes to take a German cooking class, but it's like not a German cooking class. And they're like, why would you think anyone would ever go to a German cooking class? It's just like really funny.
That's a really good premise, actually. Um,
It's very funny.
you remind me, Taylor, the girl I'm dating now, she does what you do like every every day. She's like, "Have you ever seen so and so?" I'm like, the answer is always no. If the question is if I ever
I'm
seen
not asking you. I'm asking our audience because they're gonna be like, "Oh, I totally was thinking that too, Taylor. I'm on your page."
fair,
It's
fair,
rhetorical for you.
fair. Um, it just reminded me of that.
I
So
know better than to be like, "Have you read this?" We talked about that already, so I don't ask you that anymore.
it's like the jury's still out if I can even read. So good move on that front. Okay,
Okay.
so getting back to our old friend Armin. So Armin lived in Worcesterfield, Germany, and I looked up Worcesterfield, Germany, and it looks like the landscape from The Sound of Music. And I remember just like thinking to
Germany's
myself,
so pretty.
it was so pretty. Like, look up this town here. I'll Slack it to you because like spelling Worcesterfield is kind of like a nightmare. Um,
Well, I do kind of speak a little bit of German, so no big deal.
oh, okay, yeah, there
But
you
I'm
go.
sure that's wrong. Wait, how do you spell it?
It's Wustefeld.
Got it. I'm sure it's beautiful. I mean, this part of Germany is so freaking pretty. I have been to the Sound of Music place. We went on the Sound of Music tour in Salzburg, Austria, but it's the same area. It's just gorgeous.
Isn't it?
Germany's so
It's
pretty.
you
Yeah.
know what? It got me thinking of like why is it that like how could you be a psychopath and live there? Because it's so. I mean, I guess it's a medical condition. I mean, also all of Germany became psychopaths in some way, shape, or form. So like, I
Right.
guess it all kind of they don't have a great track record for it. But what I did look up was where in the U.S. has the highest per capita rate of serial killers to population ratio.
Wisconsin.
Guess no. Guess again.
Uh, uh, Colorado.
Alaska.
Alaska. Oh,
Arguably
there's so
the
many men there.
prettiest, but
Yeah.
arguably it's like the prettiest state in the
It's
union,
so
right? Like
pretty, right?
it's like Alaska, Pacific Northwest, and then you have like the
Hmm.
Northeast area. Like, I mean, I'm being subjective about it, but like it's weird. It's like the
No, it's like,
prettiest places have these crazy people.
mm-hmm.
So, anyways, that's where Armin is from. Uh, he he had kind of like a weirder kink than most people have, which was he really wanted to consume. Oh, I should have mentioned he's a software engineer because of course he is. No offense, software engineers, but we all know you're a little bit antisocial and weird. It's the way you are. God made you that way. You're slotted squarely into software engineer territory. You don't need to be social.
Uh-huh.
All good. We understand. So, anyways,
Well, okay, I have thoughts on that I'll talk about later, but what year is this?
this would have been
What year are we in?
2001.
Okay, continue.
So Armin's kink was he really wanted to like basically consume another human being. Like this was his fetish. Like that was, you know,
Mhm.
that's what got his engine going. um,
All
and
right.
but he wasn't like some sort of like a rabid dog killer. Like he wasn't like a Ted Bundy type. He wanted somebody to volunteer to do this, have this done to them.
Hmm.
So there's a distinction between him and like a crazy serial killer in that he was like trying to do this in the most humane way, quote unquote, possible. So he goes to this
Hmm.
now defunct website called the Cannibal Cafe, which I looked it up, and all you can find is like still shots of the page, and it is so gross looking. It is all like flesh colored like backgrounds. It is so gross. It's disgusting.
Is it like re is it for cannibals or is it like pretending?
Yeah, yeah. It's well, it's the internet, right? So it's gonna be both.
Oh,
It's gonna be some pretending,
got it.
some legit. And apparently,
Okay.
this guy was legit. And
Yeah.
he went on this forum and he posts a website or posts a request looking for willing victims to be cannibalized. And what he asked for was a well-built 18 to 25-year-old man willing to be basically slaughtered and eaten. So he had a very, very defined, narrow 7-year window that he was shooting for. And this post was kind of popular. And given the self-selected nature of who's attending and reading in the Cannibal Cafe, that kind of makes sense. Armin ended up getting a ton of interest in this, but realistically, everyone but one guy was like, "Oh, I was like, I thought we were having fun, and now this is turning into like a location meetup, and I don't want that." So
Yeah, no, that
everyone,
guy's not kidding.
yeah, it was like, oh, we're all gonna have a good time, right? It's all gonna be fun, and all of a sudden, one guy like just starts like putting on like the Dexter uniform, and you're like, oh, he's being serious. This
And he's
guy,
covering you with seasoning.
there was like there was that last podcast joke with like Jeffrey Dahmer, like a cooking show, where he like tastes. What did he say? Henry was like, he goes, he like sucks on your pinky and then tries a glass of wine to see what pairs best.
Ew. That's terrible.
Um, so there's one guy named Bird Jurgen Armando Brandis, which I'm going to refer to as Armando. It's the easiest way to refer to him. He was also an engineer and 43 years old, so he was definitely not within the category of 18 to 25, but he was interested in what Armin was putting out there. So he replied to the post in March of 2001, and less than a week later, he shows up at his house. And so this is March 9th. The two basically come to an agreement on what is it that they're doing. This is the most dramatic thing ever. It's like grotesque,
100%. Yeah.
horrific, nightmarish, but it's also on the up and up, right? Like it's like this, dude.
How,
It just occurred to me that this is kind of like Auschwitz, right? Like it is. It's like there's paperwork for like, yes, we're gonna kill this person. It is
well,
weirdly
sure. I mean, it's
systematic.
a smidge more consensual than Auschwitz, but yes.
A smidge more. I don't know. Is it? Is this guy?
Yes, no one wanted to be in Auschwitz.
I know, but yeah, I know, but can it even be? This guy had to be insane, right? Like it can't be consensual if the person's insane, right?
It's way more consensual to answer an ad about being eaten than it is to be put on a train to Auschwitz.
Okay, we can agree to that. We can agree to that.
Okay, great.
There's layers to it, but yes, I'll concede that much to you. So
All right, thank you.
we're
Sheesh.
we're, we're on March 9th.
Again, I'm not getting canceled for this episode first. Okay, God.
We can't get canceled. We can't get canceled. So part of the terms that they agreed to on March 9th is that everything had to be recorded so that it was clear to anybody who learned later on that Armando was doing this willingly. So
Got it.
after all the consent protocols were taken, this is all recorded, by the way. So there's a camcorder running the entire time because everything had to be like on the up and up. So like
Yeah.
during this time period, Armando takes 20 sleeping pills and he drinks a bottle of NyQuil. And then they kind of get started. The first thing that they agreed to do was they agreed that Armin would cut off Armando's penis and they could eat it together.
Mhm.
Like,
Hmm. I mean, yeah, he's not doing great, probably.
that's okay. See, that's my point. Like, before you cancel me, at least get to this part of the podcast before you say this guy was mentally well enough to consent to something like this. So
Sure.
they tried to eat it raw. They couldn't. It was way too chewy. So Armin did the rational thing and sauteed it with some garlic and salt, pepper, and wine, which actually sounds like a pretty good way to prepare it, I think. Right?
I mean, if you put garlic on anything, it will taste better.
See, it didn't work out because he like kind of overdid it, and he had to feed it to the dogs,
Ew.
and they couldn't eat it themselves.
Ew.
What I was,
Oh no.
what I
You only
was,
get one chance at that.
you only have, yeah, but like, what I was thinking was like he fucked up because what he really should have done was he should have probably like cut it up a little bit and then made like a broth out of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, he should have
right?
like
There's no meat
just
in
filleted
there,
it
like
and like
it's
sauteed it.
well, because there's no meat. Like you
Yeah,
saute meat, right?
ugh. Yeah,
We're
I
going to we're
guess.
going to in the weeds here. So, anyways, by this point, Armando was not doing well, and he was kind of in and out of consciousness. Armin drew him a bath and sat him in the bath, and he started reading a Star Trek book of all things, because again, these are engineers we're talking about. And he would get up every 15 to 20 minutes and go check on Armando in the bathroom. Eventually, it was obvious that Armando was like just bleeding out, like he was just going to die anyways. So, and he
Hmm.
also took 20 sleeping pills. So Armin
Right.
just
Yeah.
stabs him in the neck, and then he hangs his body on meat hooks. What's interesting, Taylor, is that again, all this was recorded, but the recording is private. Like cops don't release the recording because it's way too disgusting. But there were 3 or 4 screen grabs that were actually captured and published online, and I found them. And think of the worst scene in Terrifier Part 1, and it
Ugh.
was basically that.
Oh
Not
my God.
basically, it was actually
It was that.
legitimately within matter of fact that. Yeah. So when I say he was meat hooks is not a right way to articulate it. His legs were hung separately from chains from the roof and like partition like and he was like split in half like Terrifier did to that girl.
Ugh,
You remember
that's
this
terrible.
scene?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So that's what he did. And then, and there's a few other, whatever. If you want to look it up, but it's pretty gross. So over the next 10 months, Armin ate Armando's body, having dismembered and stored it in his freezer. Apparently, it was somewhere around 44 pounds of meat that he ended up consuming over this time. I was thinking about this. I was like, it would be kind of fun thinking like I'm the only person who can decide I'm gonna try a sous vide version today versus like I'm gonna smoke it today. You know, like he had the opportunity to be really creative with it. And also, I couldn't
Yeah,
find.
that's the problem with like.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that's the problem with like eating someone on like a boat because you're trapped at sea. Is you don't get to cook it.
That is the problem. That is the biggest problem. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
cut my video because I realized that we're gonna have like it's gonna be laggy. But
Okay, I
one,
did too.
yeah. So, shoot, I had a thought here. So I ate it. I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, but you
So
got to cook it nicely. Yeah.
no. So one thing that I found interesting was like there's very, very little details about Armando. Like very little details. Like this guy. Apparently like nobody liked him or like he had no family because like nobody went looking for this guy. It was really weird. Like it was just like he just
Oh,
disappeared.
that's true. That's a good question.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
just saw it up in some guy's basement and stored in his freezer and like nobody gave a shit. Nobody decided to look him up. But like, again, like think about it, like the guy's been like wanting to get eaten by somebody. Like he's probably not gonna have like a normal friend group to rely on. So we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna fast forward to December of 2002. So we are at 8 months. No, that's not right. It's 20 months after the initial murder. So 20 months
Okay.
later, Armin goes back on the Cannibal Cafe website and posts that he's looking for someone to kill and eat. In this advertisement, he basically alludes to the fact that he's done it before. So like, trust me, this is gonna be great. You're gonna love it.
Totally. I
And
learned from my mistakes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And this one actually creeped enough people out to have them go to the authorities and report this post. It seemed like weirdly detailed, basically. I couldn't find the actual post, but like the first one didn't draw any attention, so the idea was that this one had all the details that would make you freak out. Police ended up
hmm
going over to Armin's house and finding Armando and the videotape recording his murder and dismemberment. Armin was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder, but he was deemed well enough to stand trial. So on January 30th, 2004, he was initially convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8.5 years of prison time because it's kind of manslaughter. Like the guy was recorded saying, "Yep, I'll do it. I want to do it. I'm lucid. I'm not tied up. I'm not, you know." So
But you're still not allowed to do that.
I guess like yeah, you probably shouldn't be allowed to do that, and I guess you're not allowed to do that. So
hmm
the courts realized this as well later on because the prosecution appealed this conviction and the sentence, and were like, "This is crazy. This guy. We have video of him sawing someone in half. Like, like this is
Yeah.
he should not be getting out in less than a decade." And so an appellate court decided that this is true, this is accurate, that maybe this was a basically it all turned on whether it was consensual, and that was
Uh-huh.
the result was that you can't consent to something like that because, like my earlier point, you're probably not mentally well if you're consenting to it. So like you shouldn't be allowed to essentially, and
hmm
so it was overturned. He was convicted this time of murder, not manslaughter, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. What's interesting, Germany's like so chill about stuff. Like he gets like furloughs, he gets to like go out on the town. He has to wear a disguise, but he gets to like go out on the town during the days and like hang out. It's so weird.
I
I
love
don't,
that
I
he'd like
don't,
have a mustache on and be like, "Hello, you smell nice today."
I know. Oh God, yeah. It's like that your pretty face is going to hell episode with a cannibal where he like has like someone's arm just like in his back pocket and he's just walking around with it bleeding everywhere. Uh, but um, but that's the first story. That's the first story is Armin Meiwes and his whole tale there. This one, the next one. Wait, do you have any thoughts on that, Taylor?
No, I mean, I'm torn on the consent thing because I'm like, I don't know, he wanted to do it, but also like, what's the alternative to like, who was going to find the Armand and help him? No one. He didn't have any family.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared.
How did they find him?
They found him because Armin posted again about getting a new victim.
Oh, because he posted again. Got it. I'm back on
And
board. But no one like
complete
ever said like I miss this
strangers,
guy.
no, I mean, complete
Yeah,
strangers were like, yeah, let's go find this guy. Um,
yeah.
not great. Not great for Armin
No, not great.
or Armando. So
No,
the next story happened in 1996. It is a story of Sharon Lopatka. Have you heard of this one?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. This one, uh, it's actually really similar. So I'll do like a bit of the highlights because again, it comes back to like the consensual part of this. So Sharon was born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1961. So by the time that this ends up happening, she's 35 years old, which is like, as far as I understand, kind of like an inflection point with some women who have kids and stuff. Like things are either going great or they're not. And she was married. She had several kids. She started her own business. She was like a serial entrepreneur. She'd start businesses. They would do well. They would flourish. Then they would go broke, and then she would go under. She started a type of business which was kind of like the V1 of OnlyFans in like
Mhm.
1995-ish. And this was also forum driven. So this was websites that I'm not going to name because they're it just I don't want my parents in the other room. I don't want them to hear me say these words, but they're like they're fetish websites essentially. And she would go post on
Yeah,
these websites pictures of herself nude or pictures of her, like sell her used underwear and like it was literally OnlyFans from like 1985. And
totally.
this is interesting because this case later on will be the very first time email evidence was used at a trial at a criminal trial. So
Whoa,
that's
cool.
how early we're talking about here. So, anyways,
Yeah.
she starts doing this in 1995. Again, she's married, she has kids at this point, but she's like going through whatever she's going through, whatever's happening in her life. She ends up talking to a guy named Robert Frederick Glass on in one of these forums, and they start kind of developing an internet relationship. No
Hmm.
offense, but Robert was also an engineer, a software engineer. And it's just, dude, come on. You know what's funny, Taylor? I just saw that you sent me that picture of Stonewall Jackson and talking about how like he was like a sexy vampire look. And I was like thinking
Yeah.
about that, whatever. Um,
No, I read a book. This is I'm sorry, but to digress this called Brotopia about like Silicon Valley and how like men are, whatever they're doing there. But there's like a one of the first software engineers, that was his personality. And so everybody else felt uncomfortable being around him. So then those people just like swarmed to it. There's nothing like about their like cognitive ability that makes like weird, antisocial dudes engineers. It's just that they were the ones that felt comfortable in those classes because they all were weird, you know? It like
seriously,
compounded on each other.
so
Yeah.
it wasn't. So there was actually a lot more social hierarchy involved in the decision making than you would assume, basically.
Yes. And it's not like they're not like built for that. They just happen to everyone else is doing it that looks just like them.
Then how do you explain
And
that the two stories I'm going to cover have to do with engineers eating people?
because they became engineers because they were weird.
Got it.
Not
Got
being an
it.
engineer doesn't make you weird.
Got it. Okay. The latter I agree with. So, yes, we're on the same page. So, going back to Robert. Okay. So, he's an engineer. He's in North Carolina, and he is also on these internet forums and just like super into like death and dying and eating people and fetishes and all that stuff. Him and
Hmm.
Sharon start kind of developing this relationship, and they eventually decide they want to meet up in person. So in October of 1996, Sharon travels to North Carolina to meet Robert. She left a note with her husband. It's the craziest shit ever. She left a note saying, "I'm leaving. I don't want you to investigate what I've been up to." Like legit, this is how she articulated it. Like she was basically, I'm about to do something crazy, and I don't want you to look into what I'm about to do. Leave it alone.
Hmm.
And her husband immediately reported to the police. And so the police start digging into her communications on the internet with this guy, Robert, and they find 6 weeks of communications with each other that are basically articulating that they want to meet up so that he can kill her and eat her body, basically. That was the entire substance of the communications. So, and this is the crazy part too, is like whenever they met up, wherever she flew into, Robert had to pick her up and drive her 80 miles. What was that drive like? Like, what? Like,
How's it going?
like, what do you talk about?
Good.
What is the small talk like when you're like, you see each other? Because, like, how good could the pictures have been, anyways, right? Like, you probably see each other for the first time. It's like really the first time you're getting a good look at each other, and you have 80 miles to think about what you're about to do. I don't know.
That's a lot.
That part just fascinated me. So
Hmm.
they hung out. They had a sexual relationship together for a couple of days, and then eventually they decided that Robert was gonna strangle Sharon to death, which he does. He kills her, and then he dismembers her body and buries her in his backyard. It is kind of up in the air whether or not he ate part of her or not. TBD. We don't totally know that, but he was arrested shortly thereafter because again the husband reported this immediately to the cops, and the cops were digging through her emails and found all these communications. But back then, there was no real concept of IP tracing. There weren't like the concept of issuing
Right.
subpoenas to ESPs to understand where the IPs originally. Like, all this is like brand new. So this was not like, yes, the husband immediately reported, but it took a long time to get to the bottom of like who is this guy. And so finally, the police
Hmm.
get to the bottom of it. They find who it is. They go to his house. He's arrested. He's ultimately convicted. This is incredible. He's convicted again to 8.5 years for murdering, dismembering, probably eating, and throwing the corpse of a woman into his backyard. He's free right now. He was released in 2006 for this crime.
Well, I think it's fucked up if he didn't eat her. Isn't that what she, is that not what she wanted or no?
That is what she wanted. Yeah.
Got it.
So hold on. So that's the part that's fucked up. Not the fact that he's out and running about right now. He killed someone in his trailer. He spent 80 miles in a car with her, several days hanging out, talking, and getting to know each other, and then he
But isn't that
strangled
better
her.
than just like picking someone off the street who doesn't want to do
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So you keep pigeonholing me with these hypotheticals. Yes, you're right. It is
I'm well,
better.
I'm putting hypotheticals into it. I'm
It
just
is better.
asking the important questions.
That's right.
I don't think anyone's having the best time.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think anybody's having the best time either. Yeah. It is interesting with Sharon, the gradual toll of like she was doing like normal entrepreneurial stuff, like I'm a motivational
mhm.
speaker and I'm this and that, and then all of a sudden it's like, do you want to buy my used underwear? It's like a weird like
I mean,
it went
that's the story of the internet. Yeah.
eventually we will only be interested in buying each other's undergarments. That is true.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And
So
selling feet pics. That's it.
yeah, so that was one of the ones I didn't say. Was like that was one of the sites that she was active on.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, of course, of course. So
Yeah.
those are my story. Consensual homicide. There's actually a pretty long list of these. One of the grosser ones was this guy in Japan who was he's now considered a serial killer, but at the time it was consensual homicide, where he told people he was going to kill them using carbon monoxide poisoning, so it would be like a painless death.
Hmm.
And then when they showed up at his place, he'd like throw a bag over their face and like strangle them to death. So it was
Yeah. That takes
the
away the consensual part.
okay, yeah, exactly, exactly. So,
I feel
anyways,
like Armin, like at least he wrote everything down.
he was weirdly German about it. He was so
Yeah,
German about it.
exactly.
But then the
It's very
American got
German to
off
do that.
better. Yeah, the American got off better than he did. The American actually served only 8.5 years. So
It
kudos.
sounds like everyone was just like grossed out and scared and afraid of the internet.
Yeah, they should have been. It sounds like.
Like
Um,
I
I
can,
guess
it's true.
I guess the doomed to fail part of this is like if a software engineer tells you that he has a cannibalism fantasy, take him seriously. He's weird enough to do it.
That's true. Definitely call the police
And
in
don't
general.
don't go. Just don't
Don't
go.
ever go to his apartment. No. No, 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 no,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Um, you bring a bottle of luminol when you go to his apartment, just in case.
Wait, what's luminol?
The thing that you spray and then it makes wherever blood used to be glow in a black light.
Why do you know that?
It's like a very, very popular thing. Like, I mean, not popular, but like in like the 90s, they used to do it all the time on like 2020. They would like go to a room where someone had been murdered and you can't see any blood, but you spray luminol and then you turn on a black light and it's like bloody handprints on the walls and like blood on the ceiling. So you can like see what people had done.
Okay, all right, well, there you go. Lesson learned. Um,
Yeah.
so that's my story today, Taylor. Hopefully people learn something new about the internet in the early
Yeah.
90s.
That's gross. That's
Do you-
gross. But yeah, I'm sure people are still doing it like right now.
Yeah, yeah. What is it like Tor? I'm sure if you like got Tor, you could probably go to some equivalent of the Cannibal Cafe and find someone to eat there,
Yeah,
which would
you
solve
certainly could.
world hunger, actually. If we could just like start eating each other,
That happens in like every single apocalyptic thing, but that sounds like that's where we're headed anyway,
it would also probably
just in
be good for
case.
the environment.
Right, because you wouldn't, well, then no, then people would be on farms to eat. That would happen quite quickly.
Who do you think would end up on the farms to eat?
Americans,
Would they look more like me or more like you think?
more like you.
Someone just told me they think that I would taste really gamey, like stringy and
You.
gamey.
Well, I hope I never have to find out, but if I am starving to death on a boat with you, I will eat you raw.
Ugh, God, well, there we go.
But
There
then
we
I'll
go.
get to live on.
That's
I'll
how the
get to
story
live
ends.
on.
So this is
Yes.
you heard Taylor's confessions here. Sweet. Well, that was my story,
If I had a
Taylor.
grill, I'd grill you. Yeah.
You'd grill me.
Awesome. Thank you, Fars. Um, super, super
Fun
gross per usual. So
and
super
fun.
fun. Yeah, I have a little bit of listener mail. Kiara, our friend, sent a suggestion. I think it's more for you, but did you ever see the or hear about Action Park or see that documentary about it?
Yeah, yeah, I did. That I did see.
That
That
could
I
be a
did
good
see.
that could be a fun one to talk about later because it's so crazy.
Yeah,
Just a
I like
suggestion.
that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and everyone follow us at Doomed to Fail Pod everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Oh, also. So I was on TikTok and there's this like new trend on TikTok about how men always think about the Roman Empire. So I'm trying to get into it by posting about our Roman Empire stories. I'll let you know more as it
Yeah, I saw
goes.
that. I saw you republish a bunch of our old ones.
Yeah.
Nice. Sweet. Well, we'll
Cool.
go ahead and cut this off. And again, if you have any feedback, please write to us at doomtofailpod@gmail.com. We're always looking for feedback, any suggestions, thoughts, whatever it is. It is always welcome. So thank you. And we'll go ahead and cut this off and rejoin you on Wednesday.
Cool. Thanks, Mars.
Yep. Thanks, Taylor. Bye.